the roles of mothers and children inside the medieval century. There is a general perception that, in the Middle Ages, children were not valued by their families or by society as a whole. Perhaps no time in history has sentimentalized infants, toddlers, and wives as has modern culture. But it doesn't necessarily follow that children were undervalued in earlier times. At age 7, play was still an important part of the child's life. However, as the child's ability to learn and fulfill family duties grew, so did their responsibility to contribute. If circumstances allowed, 7 was the age of entrance into formal education. Peasant and urban children took up responsibilities around the house. This photo shows an example of cleaning up a house as a peasant. By age 12, the child began to take on a more serious role in family duties. Although, according to canon law, at the age 12, girls could marry. This was relatively uncommon unless the child was a heiress or belonged to a family of noble birth. Peasant children at this age stayed at home and continued to learn and develop domestic skills and husbandry. The end of childhood and entrance into adolescence was marked by leaving home and moving to the house or their employer or master, entering a university or into church service. Urban children moved out of their homes and into the homes of the employers or masters depending on their future roles as servants or apprentices. Noble boys learned skills in arms, and noble girls learned to run households. Once married off, a young girl had no control over her body, and all of her decisions are made by her husband. It was not unusual for the young girl to get pregnant by her husband, sexually abusing her when she was only in her teens. Women in the Middle Ages in Europe occupied a number of different social groups. Women held the positions of wife, mother, peasant, warrior, artisan, and nun, as well as some important leadership roles, such as abbess or queen regent. The very concept of woman changed in numbers of ways during the Middle Ages, and several forces influenced women's roles during this period, while also expanding upon their traditional roles in society and the economy. Whether or not they were powerful or stayed back to take care of their homes, they still played an important role in society, whether they were saints, nobles, peasants, or nuns. Due to the context from recent years leading to the reconceptualization of women during this time period, many of the roles were overshadowed by the work of men. Although it is prevalent that women participated in church in helping of home, they did much more to influence the Middle Ages. In the Middle Ages, the upper socio-economic groups generally included royalty and nobility conduct books from the period, present, and image of the role of elite women being to obey their spouse, guard their virtue, produce offspring, and to oversee the operation of the household. For those women who did adhere to the traditional roles, the responsibilities could be considerable, with households sometimes including dozens of people. This photo shows an example of this. Women were healers and engaged in medical practices. In the 12th century Salerno, Italy, Trotta wrote one of the Trotta texts on diseases of women. Her text, Treatments for Women, addressed the events in childbirth that called for medical attention. The book was a compilation of 3 original texts, quickly became the basis for medical treatment of women. Based on medical information developed in the ancient Greek and Roman eras, these texts discussed ailments, disease, and possible treatments for women health issues. This image shows a woman healing a man who was injured. In terms of labor, women of the peasantry had more gender equality than in nobility. However, most scholars agree that impoverished women had fundamentally the same subordinate status as women elsewhere in the medieval society. Women were generally prohibited from acting as elected town officials, and likely only attended village meetings if they were unmarried or widowed. Due to poor nutrition and the dangers of childbirth, women's life expectancy at birth was less than of a male, perhaps 25 years. As a result, in some places, there were 4 men for every 3 women. Women had much involvement in the church as a religion. It is very important to the Middle Ages. However, one of the most prominent roles a woman could be in the church was serving as a nun or working in a hospital, mostly nuns as well. Women generally participated in the church in a different way than men would, as well as having different beliefs such as purifying women after birth or denying communing to menstruating women. Many ideas were conceptualized by men about the women in the church, which led to its treatment because of gender roles. These are the websites I have used during this presentation, and these were the roles of women and children inside of the medieval times. Thank you.